volcano within an hour and a half of Las Vegas?
Yeah, there's multiple cinder cones. You can get Kendrick Lamar to come maybe hang out with me. We have Mount Charleston. We have Red Rock Canyon. We have Sloan Canyon. We have Aviquame. We have Valley of Fire.
Yes.
We have Hoover Dam.
Yes.
We have Lake Mead.
Hey, everybody. I'm Chad Taylor with the Vegas Podcast. And today we are here with a special guest, Mike Gauthier. And I know all of my guests are special, but today Mike has my nerves on end. So as much as he is calm and cool and relaxed, I'm breathing heavy. So I'm going to settle it down for you for a second. Don't forget, if you like the content coming out of the Vegas Podcast, like and subscribe if you want more information coming from those who know Las Vegas best. And first, I'm going to introduce you to Mike. Mike, say hello.
Hi. Good afternoon. Nice to be here.
You're so calm and so cool. Something I love about you so much.
They only paid me for that.
Right? You get paid for that. So, Mike, you are here because you are one amazing human. We only met a few years ago, but you've been here in the Lake Mead National Recreation Area, and you are now, I believe, the permanent superintendent for our area. Is that correct?
Yep.
How's that going so far?
It's been a great fit. I've fallen in love with the desert. I'm from the Pacific Northwest, so it took a little bit of adjustment. But Lake Mead, and I think what it means to the Las Vegas community has been fun to discover, fun to be part of, and to work with the staff there in the community that cares about Lake Mead and Lake Mojave has just been a joy. So I was acting in the job for about 9 months, and then I got the job permanently. We're at a year and 9 months now, basically, that I've been associated with Lake Mead. It's just been fun.
A year and 9 months. And you came in a very turbulent time for Lake Mead as a whole.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that was quite the entrance. And I will have to say, the way you came in, the way you sat down at the table, and what I saw from the other side of the table was the way you built the camaraderie between all the players was admirable. And I appreciate that. And I just want to say thank you publicly because you did. You sat everybody down, and you do have where I'm nervous today is you have a what I see as a prestigious position, very well respected position, credible. You're a very intelligent man, and what I've seen you do is respectable.
I appreciate that. It was a tough time. I mean, there was a lot of concern over the low water. One of the many things that are factored in is the lake levels at Lake Mead, which is an important recreation source and sort of getaway for this community,
right?
For Arizona and Nevada, and particularly Las Vegas. And so part of it was just to make sure that we were clear with people on our communication, what's going on. It was stressful. There were people really worried about the lake level dropping even more, losing access to their boats, losing access to the water. And granted, there was a little bit of luck involved. Rained quite a bit, snowed quite a bit for a couple winters, which helped out. But there was people here that cared, and that's what I saw when I first got here. They didn't seem to be assembled to work together, but they were there.
Yeah. Right. That's the good news is you're here, you're permanent. You came in at a turbulent time. You settled the waters. I know that everybody on our side is very satisfied with what's happening out there with you and your whole entire team. And I will have to say it because Julie Dragotz that you guys have out there, she's phenomenal as well. Worked with her for years. And I believe that she also comes from a concession background. At least her parents, I think, were potentially in concession. So she's been around it for a long time as well, similar to Jill Lagan, which I went back and listened to your podcast with Jill, and I'll tell everybody that I will put up here the link to Jill's podcast, which is the best damn podcast, is what Jill has. And you dig a little bit more into your who you are, where you're from. So we won't go deep into that because I want to send people to listen to Jill's podcast. But I do want to talk about our access to nature and how you landed here and how your upbringing played a role in you getting to the park. Can you give us a little backstory about kind of how you landed here?
I started in the Park Service when I was young, in 1985. So I've been working at a broad range of parks. I'm from the Pacific Northwest. I was born there. Did have a military dad, so we moved around a lot, but landed back in the Northwest. And outdoor life is pretty much a rich part of the identity of a Seattleite or Washingtonian. People think of you eat an apple, you eat some salmon, there's the Puget Sound, the big mountains, the Cascades, all the rain. So outdoor life and hiking was important, and I absorbed that as a young age, and then got into the Park Service, and it just, there's over 400 national parks throughout the system. There's one in every district, I think, in the country, for every congressional district for the most part. People love... they love the public lands. They love the public resources, the history, the cemeteries, the battlefields, the seashores,
Right.
the rec areas, the parks. So, because they tell the American story in so many ways. And for me, it was fun to be part of the outdoor culture of it. Yeah, when I got started.
When you got started. And when you say young, believe you said your father kind of pushed you in that direction too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad was in the Navy. He was a chief of a nuclear submarine, and there was sort of there were rules and there was expectations, and so he quickly pushed me out the door in high school to have a summer job and try to figure out where I was going to go. And I think he saw in me that I loved backpacking, hiking, camping, being with friends and family, you know, at a lake or a creek or a river,
Right.
hanging out, just doing stuff, and it is fun. I don't think many people come back from experiences like that and complain that they had a bad time. They usually miss it and enjoyed what they did when they were outside. So anyway, fast forward from 85 to 2024, I'm still in the Park Service, and I've worked a lot of places and fell in love with the desert. So it was not too hard to motivate towards Lake Mead.
So you say you fell in love with the desert, and then so you also came from another property in the desert, which is Mojave.
Correct.
And it's Mojave,
Yes.
not Mohave.
Yeah.
Correct. So tell me a little bit about Mojave.
It's a bigger part. It's the third largest unit in the lower 48 states. So only Yellowstone and Death Valley are bigger. So Mojave is bigger than Lake Mead. It's bigger than Grand Canyon. It's bigger than Everglades. It's bigger than Yosemite. It's a very large chunk of land. It's a national preserve, and then attached to it's also Castle Mountain National Monument. Those two comprise 1.6 million acres, and it's rather untouched. There's not much commercial development. There's not lodging. There aren't pools. There's not food service. But what there is an amazing network of roads, particularly for those who like to camp, hike, explore. There's Volcanic Peak. There's two national natural landmarks, kind of a mouthful there.
Okay.
So there's special properties. One is Mitchell Cavern, and the other is the volcanic zone up there near Aiken Mine. So these really fantastic landscapes that people don't realize are roughly within an hour and a half
We
of
have a
Vegas.
volcano within an hour and a half of Las Vegas.
Yeah, there's multiple cinder cones that are out there.
Stop
They're beautiful. They're really beautiful, but you have to have a decent vehicle to see them.
Right.
But the landscape is raw; it's undeveloped. But the camping is fantastic. So if you like the Jeep, or you got a 4-wheel drive car or truck, and you want to go kind of escape, Mojave National Preserve is right there. And it was a bit of an undersung park unit. I'd worked at Yosemite. I worked at Mount Rainier, kind of the famous parks. But Mojave, it's a famous name. I mean, even Apple named its operating system after Mojave,
Yes, it
actually.
did.
But at the same time, it's not as visited, say, as Joshua Tree or Death Valley. It got me out in the desert. I got to see that deserts really aren't just the initial perception of sand and dust and flat landscapes. It's mountainous, it's volcanoes. There's springs, there's wildlife everywhere,
Right.
so it was easy to fall in love.
You got acclimated to the brackishness.
Correct.
So, and coming from there and coming here, you also have a program that you put in place here. I just want to talk about it real quick because I think it's a great program. So go ahead and tell me a little about your Drive Like a
Tortoise. Yeah. Well, one of the signature problems that we had at Mojave was people, and frankly a problem in Southern Nevada and Southern California in general, but
Right.
people speeding, driving really recklessly.
Right.
And but the consequences were very tragic in the Mojave because the roads were 2-lane roads. They don't have rumble strips. They didn't have great shoulders. There's a lot of monsoon, so the shoulders wash out. So any minor mistake on the road, and the speed limits were 55. I get it. People don't like 55, but nonetheless, any minor mistake and your car flipped. And so we had the highest fatality rate for traffic accidents in the Park Service. And they were solely because people were just speeding and not driving slowly. And so we developed this program, Drive Like a Tortoise, which at first kind of makes you chuckle.
Yeah.
But it's true, the slower, safer path actually gets you to destination just minutes later,
Right.
and you're safe. And at the same time, what was really tragic and what, is hard to sell, people understand human fatality, but they were also, the speeders were killing tortoise. And tortoise are an threatened species, right?
Yeah.
So their threat to endangerment high, and it takes a long time for a tortoise to mature before it can have baby tortoise, right?
Right.
And so tortoise aren't big either. They're about the size of a football.
Yeah.
And on the road, people were crushing them with their cars, speeding and not even knowing. And that had a tragic consequence on the population in some key critical areas that Mojave National Preserve oversaw.
Right.
And so there was this side benefit of really, I needed people to stop killing wildlife, stop killing bighorn sheep, snakes, rabbits, coyotes, owls. All of this was just getting whacked because people were just driving fast, not seeing it. And the wildlife, of course, don't understand cars, and they live there, so they don't know.
They understand cars. They understand to run in front of them.
Yeah,
or
yeah.
walk slowly.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So
Slow
anyway,
down.
drive like a tortoise is, I think it's kind of sticky and people understand it. Do I expect everybody to behave immediately? No.
Right.
But it does, I think, remind people that there's wildlife out there and that their safety is important. They'll get there if they drive a little slower.
So the message is, and you'll see the messaging in the park. And if you're in the park, just slow down. It is a national park.
Yeah.
Protect and preserve.
Yeah,
right?
and by the way, we've since expanded that campaign of mine. I have to admit,
Yes.
I'm sort of proud of it. It's actually a Live Tortoisely campaign, and there's camping tortoisely and hiking tortoisely. We're going to have tortoisely rider, so look for some Dennis Hopper and some Peter Fonda artwork here soon coming out about basically tortoise knows how to live in the desert and does recreation well in the desert, and we as public we could model some of or they would be the model for our behaviors, right?
Okay.
Keep them alive, yeah.
I think I can get down with that.
Yeah.
I mean, it really leads into the word patience as well.
Yeah. And they've been here for millions of years, right?
Right.
Humans haven't been around for that long, but tortoises been here 20 plus million years. And it's not because they're rushing and they're taking their time and they're drinking their water and they're moving slowly and they're staying out of the sun when it's hot in the middle of the day and they come out when it's the right time to play. Anyway, it'll be fun. It's a fun campaign to encourage kind of responsible behavior on public lands.
Yeah, and I think it'll go over well so far, and so far it has. So you grew up. You were kind of I won't say pushed, but recommended into the national park zone. You grew up at Rainier, or you spent a lot of time in Rainier, from what I know. Military and Rainier and Virginia Beach and Hawaii, and where's another place?
South Carolina, Louisiana.
Okay.
Yeah, so lived in a wide range of places, but the Park Service has largely identified where I've lived since, I was in college, I had summer jobs, so I started working in parks, living in parks.
Okay, got it. And so through all of that and being outdoors, you truly are at home outdoors. I know you're a kayaker. I know you love to kayak, which actually, no, excuse me, not so much a kayaker, you're a canoer.
Yeah, I love
Yes.
the canoe.
You love
I
to
love the
canoe.
canoe. I can kayak.
Okay.
I like the canoe. I like the raft too.
Right.
Whitewater.
We call the canoe a divorce machine down at the property. Every time we put a husband and wife into the canoe, we just wait for them to come back because it's going to be joyous. It's
I
fun
know how to
watch
paddle a
them.
canoe by myself, so I'm okay.
You're okay.
Not worth breaking up with my
How many
wife.
team
over.
members do you have out here for the national park in Nevada?
Yeah. We have a staff of a little over 200 at Lake Mead that are paid.
Really?
And then we work with volunteers. Part of our role is to ignite that love that people have for what they're into. And many people have a lot of skills. They've retired, but they want to get back. Or they've got the time and they want to be involved in something bigger. So we have over 1,000 volunteers each year that help us. Some of them work in campgrounds, for example. Some of them help us collect seeds for plant species we want to propagate. Some of them pick up trash. Some of them do boat patrols for us. So there's a wide, if you have an interest in something, we have people that help us in our archives, for example, in our museum. That's what their background and interest is. So they like the history.
Really?
And they get access to all of our archives, right? So all this history that we share a little bit with Bureau of Rec. And it's a neat way to kind of see a different side of a national park versus, I go to Lake Mead to go water skiing, for example, which, by the way, is great. But, so there's more going on at the park. And then obviously the 200 paid staff there's a wide range of them that do all sorts of things from fix roads and utility systems. And when the sewer gets broken, they fix it, or the electrical grid. Similarly, law enforcement, search and rescue, interpreters, museum staff, administrative staff, budget, the whole gamut. And then scientists, too. We do have scientists on staff that help us understand the water quality and and what's going on with the wildlife in the park and what's going on with the weather conditions, so that all this could help us protect what's there, but also help visitors know and understand the resources next door to them in Vegas.
There's a large staff of a very diverse group of people. When you talk about archaeologists and biologists and curators and engineers and historians, and there are a lot of people on that team out there. I guess I didn't realize that. Almost 200. And I think I read a statistic in the park somewhere around 100. It's like 20,000 employees approximately in the national park.
Yep.
Okay. You have like 120,000 volunteers with the Park Service.
Yeah. So the Park Service is well loved. And there's people who had a personal connection with the unit near their home, or they just want to give through philanthropy, right? To something they cared about, experiences. And they often attach it to things that they care about. That's why they're volunteering, giving their time, giving their resources.
Right.
And it's cool. It's a reflection of how important the agency is. It has a rather small budget in the you look at the whole federal government, but its impact and its notoriety is high, right? We're internationally famous. People travel to America to enjoy national park sites, our memorials, the whole mall in Washington, the Lincoln Memorial, the Washington Memorial, all of that, the Vietnam Memorial, the different buildings there. And then similarly, they travel to America to see Glacier National Park, to see Denali National Park, to see, Yosemite, Yellowstone, Grand Canyon. So it's a huge economic engine, and it's a great place for the American public to kind of, recommit what they feel to be cool about being in America, really, is how people do it.
Yeah, listen, I did some trade shows in the beginning of the year. Obviously, I work with guest services and Lake Mead Mojave Adventures, and we did some events, and we obviously get approval to have to use the concession logo. And we were pitching the properties throughout the United States. And in doing so, we started pitching it one way. We changed it and adjusted to it slightly to pitching it as, we have properties in or around state or national parks. And I kid you not, people would immediately stop and it piqued their interest. Just saying a state or a national park. So you're right, the people around the world and even the people locally love national parks. When with over 400 national parks, and I think it said something around 60 designated with the name national park, how many superintendents like Mike Gauthier are there?
One per unit. Some of the units have, so like at Mojave, for example, I oversaw 2 units.
Okay.
So some of them are coupled together, but often there is one superintendent at the park, and they vary on complexity. From some are like birthplace sites, some are, small monuments or battlefields. Right. Some of them are far-flung. They commemorate events that had happened. When I was at Nez Perce National Historical Park in Idaho, really powerful site. Our sites existed on 4 different states, right? Because Nez Perce Indians, they traveled, they moved all over, right? All of Native Americans actually kind of moved around throughout the year, but there were all these historic sites that were far flung in Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, and it also told the story of the battle with the U.S. cavalry for 4 months in summer 1872, and so sometimes you have a park with far flung sites. So sometimes they're like a Lassen or a Pinnacles, or kind of compact, like a piece of land, and a site like Nez Perce literally would have tiny sites, battlefields that had happened, really prominent battles, though, that were really sort of heart-wrenching stories that were preserved. And some of them don't have staff that work there, but the site's still protected, right? And the history's saved because something significant had happened there.
Got it. So with upwards of approximately 400 superintendents, do the superintendents all get together at a big dinner once a year to say hello to each other?
No.
No? There's no award ceremony?
No.
There should be, because your jobs are quite amazing. Protect and preserve, and what you guys do, the private and the public sector differs.
Yeah.
And I've gone from one to the, I haven't gone from one to the other, but now that I think about it, with all of the concession backgrounds for the Park Service employees, maybe there's something in my far future in the parks. So I'll put that out there, just manifest destiny. Maybe you never know. Protecting and preserving the parks, though. Let's talk about Las Vegas. You're on the Vegas podcast. That's where we're at. We have 40 plus million visitors a year. We have a school district that's pretty sizable. I think we have about, we have a population of about 3 million locally. So we have a population of 3 million in Las Vegas. and we have 40 million visitors a year. What would you tell to the visitors that are coming in, the 40 million people? What would you tell them about the national park system around Las Vegas, or what they could do to experience that national park coming into town?
So coming from the Pacific Northwest, which I really think, I'm going to make a leap here, but I think that
We like
people kind
leaps.
of associate that with outdoor activity, right? There's sort of a eco kind of atmosphere, right? By the way, it exists everywhere, but it has that reputation. And Mount Rainier is there, North Cascades there, the Olympic Mountains are there. It's just sort of it's rich up there. But I am firmly convinced that living in Vegas, you have far more access to equally, if not more compelling, public lands and national parks out your back door.
You nailed it.
Yeah, and unlike the Seattle region, and by the way, I'm not trying to denigrate the Seattle region remotely.
Love that region.
It sprawled, it grew in a massive way, and it. Whereas Vegas is rather actually contained, and shortly out of Vegas, you're in one of the largest national wildlife refuges. For example, right north of here, we have Mount Charleston, a ski hill. We have Red Rock Canyon, the conservation area. We have Sloan Canyon. We have Aviquame. We have Valley of Fire.
Yes.
We have Hoover Dam.
Yes.
We have Lake Mead. I mean, it's brilliant.
And even outside of Vegas, you still have southern Utah that's right there, which is Zion.
Well, I was going to say, if you stretch a little further,
Yeah.
Zion's just as close as Grand Canyon, which is just as close as Great Basin, which Death Valley's half that distance, and Joshua Tree. So
Right.
it's remarkable the amount of public lands and the quality of public lands that are right outside of Vegas. And I think it makes living here a lot richer for all families that they have access to parks, both city, county, and state parks. And Nevada has a brilliant state park system, by the way. But the national parks, too, the other federal lands, the BLM land, the Forest Service land, the Bureau of Rec, and the Fish and Wildlife Service, they're all like places to go birding, to go hiking, to go sightseeing, to go picnic, to go camping. And it's kind of undiscovered still. I mean, people know these places, but they're gigantic places. But
I love
people love
hummingbirds.
birding. They look at the park very differently than the person who wants to go jet ski.
But I think you guys have a program that's been around for a while that's called
It's called Every Kid Outdoors now.